So what we're going to look at next here are the parts on a typical vertebrae. So we look at a vertebrae here. Let's look at it in several directions here. What you are going to notice here is a large hole right in the middle of the vertebrae, and that is called the vertebral foramen. Remember, foramen means hole, so this is the vertebral foramen. This portion of the vertebrae is known as the body. So that is the body there. These parts that move off to the sides, and over here, those are called transverse processes. So this is a transverse process, that's a transverse process. If I turn this guy around this way, there's a transverse process, there's a transverse process. And then the part that sticks out towards the back, you see it here, and on this particular guy it moves down, but it doesn't always. This is called the spinous process. So that is the spinous process. So transverse processes, spinous process. Now if I turn this guy back here, this area here that connects the transverse process to the body, that is called the pedicle. So that area right there is called the pedicle. So that's transverse process, body, this is the pedicle. If I turn it like so here, notice the transverse process, spinous process. This area here between the transverse process and the spinous process, this area right here is called the lamina. So that is the lamina. These parts right here are going to attach this vertebrae to another vertebrae that's above it. And so these two are called the superior articular processes. And if I turn it around here, these guys down here are the inferior articular processes. If I turn around this way, these are the superior articular processes. These are the inferior articular processes. Now let's look at those processes when we have a bunch of these vertebrae together. If I pull these apart here, these two guys here are superior articular processes. And as you can see, they're going to attach here to these parts here on this bone, and those are the inferior articular processes on that guy. Now when we have vertebrae, one right after the next, we do see a space here between this vertebrae and that vertebrae, and that space there is called the intervertebral foramen. So inter means between. It's a hole between the vertebrae. Intervertebral foramen.